in the United States just tested positive. Yellowstone, one of the most visited places on Earth, 34% of all water samples taken, positive, for something with a 98% fatality rate. Something that enters through your nose, travels to your brain, and starts eating it. From the inside. This is not a horror movie. This is a study published 6 days ago. And the reason it is happening now, in places it was never seen before, is something that should concern every single person watching this. The organism is called Naegleria fowleri. Scientists call it a brain-eating amoeba, and that name is not dramatic. That is exactly what it does. It is one of the smallest life forms on Earth, a single-celled organism that lives in warm freshwater, lakes, rivers, hot springs, poorly treated swimming pools. It has been here for billions of years, long before humans existed, long before brains existed. It does not want to eat your brain. It does not want anything. It has no agenda. But by a terrible accident of evolution, it is almost perfectly designed to destroy the human mind. And it is moving into new territory. Right now, let us talk about what this thing actually does inside a human body. Because the biology is one of the most disturbing things in all of medicine. The amoeba lives in water. Its job is to hunt bacteria. It is a voracious predator of the microscopic world. Fast, aggressive, capable of tearing other organisms apart and consuming them whole. Most of the time, when it enters a human nose, it finds nothing of interest. The immune system slows it down. It goes nowhere. Nothing happens. But occasionally, in a small number of cases, something goes terribly wrong. The inside of the human nose is filled with a network of olfactory nerve cells, the cells responsible for smell. These cells communicate with each other using chemical signals. One of the most important is a chemical called acetylcholine, and Naegleria fowleri, through billions of years of evolution completely unrelated to humans, happens to have receptors that detect acetylcholine. The same chemical your nose cells use to talk to your brain, and it is irresistibly attracted to it, like a moth to a flame. It follows the signal, upstream, toward the brain. The immune system fights back. Neutrophils, the body's first responder cells, swarm the amoeba. And here is where it gets dark. Individually, they have no chance. Naegleria fowleri is large by microbial standards. It is a fighter. It has spent billions of years battling other microorganisms. It kills immune cells. Actively, it consumes them. So the immune system does what it always does when it is losing. It escalates. It floods the area with more cells, more chemicals, more firepower. And that escalation, in the confined space of the brain, is almost as deadly as the amoeba itself. Because the brain has no room to swell. It is surrounded by bone, nowhere to expand. As the battle rages, fluid pours in, pressure builds, brain tissue compresses, and then something called the brainstem, the part of the brain that controls breathing, begins to fail. The patient experiences headaches first, then fever, nausea, vomiting, then confusion, seizures, hallucinations, and then they lose consciousness. From first symptom to death, sometimes less than 7 days. The fatality rate is 98%, not 50% like Nipah, not 48% like H5N1, 98%. Since records began in the United States in 1962, 164 cases have been documented. Only 4 people survived, 4, in over 60 years of recorded history. Now here is the story that changed everything scientists thought they knew about this organism. For decades, Naegleria fowleri was considered a problem of the American South. Florida, Texas, California, hot states, warm water, makes sense. Stay out of warm southern lakes in summer, you are probably fine. That was the conventional wisdom. Then something changed. Cases started appearing in Minnesota, in Kansas, in Indiana, states that were never on the map for this organism. States where the water used to be too cold for Naegleria fowleri to survive. Used to be. And then, 6 days ago, a new study was published. Researchers tested water samples across 3 national park sites in the western United States. Yellowstone National Park, 185 water samples taken, 63 of them positive, 34%. 1 in 3 samples from one of the most visited natural sites in America. Positive for a brain-eating amoeba with a 98% fatality rate. And the reason it is there, in places it was never found before, is the same reason Candida auris appeared on 4 continents at once, the same reason H5N1 is spreading into new species, the same reason permafrost viruses are thawing. Temperature. Naegleria fowleri thrives in water between 30 and 46 degrees Celsius. It can survive up to 65 degrees. As global water temperatures rise, lakes and rivers that were once too cold are now warm enough. And the amoeba moves in. Scientists at Boston University published research in late 2025, making a projection that should alarm anyone paying attention. With current greenhouse gas emission trajectories, the ecological range suitable for Naegleria fowleri will expand dramatically by 2100, into regions currently considered safe, into water bodies currently used for swimming, drinking, and recreation across the northern United States and Europe. Minnesota, Belgium, Italy. Cases have already been recorded there. The map is changing, and the amoeba is not waiting for permission. Here is something that barely gets reported. It is not just lakes and rivers anymore. A 19-year-old male in Pakistan in 2024. He was admitted to hospital with severe neurological symptoms. He had not been swimming. He had not been near any open water. The only water contact he could identify was using tap water for religious washing at home and at his local mosque. Tap water. He died. A 22-year-old factory worker visited a local swimming pool, died, and scientists studying transmission patterns are finding something increasingly concerning. New routes of exposure are emerging: nasal irrigation with contaminated tap water, water spraying toys, contaminated water reservoirs. The assumption that you are safe as long as you stay out of lakes is no longer a safe assumption everywhere. Now let us talk about the one thing that makes this amoeba almost uniquely terrifying. There is effectively no treatment. There are drugs being studied. A combination of medications, including miltefosine, has shown some limited promise. It is the drug given to the 4 survivors, 4 people, in over 60 years. But by the time a diagnosis of Naegleria fowleri is confirmed, the battle inside the brain is almost always already lost, because the symptoms look exactly like bacterial meningitis: headache, fever, nausea. Standard meningitis tests come back negative. Doctors look for more common explanations. By the time the correct diagnosis is made, days have passed. The amoeba has had days to multiply, days to consume brain tissue, days that the patient did not have. There is a case that captures this perfectly. A 12-year-old girl, Kansas, summer 2024, swimming in a local lake with her family. Normal summer day. Within a week, she was in hospital. By the time doctors identified Naegleria fowleri in her spinal fluid, the infection had already progressed too far. She died 9 days after swimming in that lake. 9 days, from a healthy child on a summer afternoon to gone. And here is the detail that stays with you. Kansas. Not Florida, not Texas, Kansas. A state where 20 years ago this organism was essentially unheard of. The water was too cold. It is not too cold anymore. So, what is being done? The honest answer is not nearly enough and not fast enough. Water surveillance for Naegleria fowleri is almost non-existent in most of the world. Testing is almost never done proactively. It is triggered only after a human case is identified, after someone is already sick, after someone is probably already dying. Researchers at Boston University are calling for urgent changes to that approach. Proactive testing of high-risk water systems, public warning systems for water bodies that test positive, better diagnostic tools so doctors can identify infection faster. Because right now, the pipeline from exposure to correct diagnosis to any chance of treatment is too slow. It has always been too slow. And as the amoeba expands into new regions, into places with no history of dealing with it, into communities with no awareness of it, that pipeline gets even slower. Here is what I want you to understand about the scale of what is happening. Naegleria fowleri is not new. It has been in warm water for billions of years, and for most of human history it was confined to specific warm regions. Predictable, mappable, avoidable if you knew where to look. That era is ending. The warming of freshwater systems is happening faster than the scientific community can track, faster than surveillance systems can follow, faster than public health messaging can reach the communities now entering the risk zone. A swimmer in Minnesota does not think about brain-eating amoeba. Why would they? It was never their problem. It is their problem now. A family visiting Yellowstone does not think about what is in the hot spring runoff entering the river where kids play. It is their problem now. 1 in 3 water samples positive in a national park 6 days ago. And here is the final thought I want to leave you with. We talk about climate change in terms of weather, floods, wildfires, rising seas. But climate change is also a biological event. It is reorganizing which organisms live where. It is moving ancient pathogens into new territory. It is warming the water where your children swim. It is thawing the permafrost that kept old viruses frozen. It is expanding the range of fungi that kill in hospitals. And it is pushing a brain-eating amoeba northward, into national parks, into Midwestern lakes, into tap water systems in countries that never had to think about this before. The threat is not arriving in some distant future. The study was published 6 days ago. The samples were taken from Yellowstone. The amoeba is already there. The question is not whether our world is changing. The question is whether we are paying attention to what is changing with it. Drop your answer in the comments. Did you know Naegleria fowleri was spreading north? Or is this the first time you are hearing about it? Because if it is, that is exactly the problem. And if this video made you think differently about the water around you, there is one small thing you can do. Hit subscribe. Because every week on Sick Nature, we go deeper into the things that live, spread, and evolve in the shadows of nature. Viruses, fungi, parasites, the hidden world most people never see. You found this channel for a reason. Do not miss what comes next.